All right, welcome back to the channel, to the greatest training vlog channel that there is on YouTube right now. Obviously, that is my very unbiased opinion. But today's gonna be kind of an interesting day. I have quite a bit of soreness in my legs. I'm gonna try to sprint today, do some work on the track, see how it goes. Main focus here is to try to just get some more volume on acceleration today. So first day on the track was Monday. I did a longer, higher volume tempo session with some Plyos. We're gonna do some Plyo stuff here, probably keep it nice and light. Probably do some med ball tosses as well after we finish our acceleration work today. And then there's a possibility that I go into the gym this afternoon to hit another session for today, just because yesterday I ended up taking an extra day off. So the way that it went is Monday I did my tempo work. Tuesday I had my first main lifting session in the gym. We did the back squats, we did the cleans, some bench press. Wednesday was kind of a lower intensity accessory day. So really just did some like pull-ups, some shoulder work, some back work. And then Thursday, that soreness from Tuesday kind of hit pretty hard, especially from those back squats, since I haven't done back squats in a long time. Quads were real tight, real sore. Adductors very tight, very sore. So I took an extra day off yesterday. Really the only thing I did activity-wise yesterday was just kind of walked around. I had some errands to run, had to do some things throughout the day. So I just got on my feet, moved around a little bit rather than just kind of sit around and hope that the soreness goes away. Today, it feels better. Still tight, still a little bit sore. But the plan is we're gonna do some 20-meter sprints, focusing on that acceleration phase, but we're gonna use blocks today. I've been kind of writing out a little bit more on the outline of this program. And I think what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna progress this towards a 60-meter sprint towards the end of this phase. And that's gonna be what the test for the sprint is going to be. And I wanna do it out of blocks. So I haven't done block sprints or block starts in a long time. And I know it's gonna be very awkward and very uncomfortable. So I need to get some reps from the blocks in order to kind of build efficiency out of the blocks, get comfortable kind of pushing off of that like really crouched position, and then just build comfort in order to progress that later on. We're just gonna be doing block accelerations today. I wanna do a minimum of 8 total reps. If my legs are feeling good, then I'll probably do somewhere around 10 to 12 reps, but it's all gonna be based on how this soreness is making those reps feel, because I don't wanna just do sloppy reps, especially first time using the blocks. So I might even, if 20 is starting to feel rough, I might start off with 20s and then do 10s, or maybe I start with 10s and then do 20s, depending on how the warm-up goes. But that's kind of the outline for today. If the running session feels good and my legs are up for it, I'm gonna go into the gym and do another lifting session today and hopefully be able to kind of get through that relatively well. So my normal outline for the week was gonna be like Thursday yesterday would have been my next track session, and I would have done these accelerations yesterday, and then today would have been my weightlifting session. But because I took an extra day off, I don't really have much to do today outside of training. So I can hit my morning session, do some sprints, and then wait probably 4 or 5 hours. And if I'm feeling up for it, I might bust out the weightlifting session this afternoon, or I might save it for tomorrow. Don't know. We're gonna see how it goes. Overall, everything that I've kind of expected to happen has been happening. The soreness is there. One thing I've noticed, which I probably should mention, especially for those people who have received the phase 1 program, when you go from a training phase like I did prior to this one, so a lot more fast explosive reps, not nearly as much volume on everything, like sets of 2 on most everything that we did for the last 6 weeks. When you go from something like that into a strength phase where the volume is more of the focus of the beginning of that strength phase, what I'm experiencing right now is I feel like I'm doing a lot of volume. That volume for me is messing with my appetite a little bit. Like when I train hard and I feel like I've done a lot of work, my appetite usually drops. It's hard for me to feel hungry and get all the food in. So now we've got an increased workload, we've got a decrease in appetite. So I've actually lost probably a little bit over a kilo of weight since Monday, beginning this training cycle, just because my body's trying to adapt to that volume. I'm going through that phase of trying to build up my appetite again. So I went from, at the end of the last training cycle, when I did all my testing, so the sprints and the jumps and power clean and everything, I weighed in at just like barely over 98 kilos. This morning, I felt really light. Like I can feel when my body's gone down. I went and weighed myself and I weighed 97 kilos. I haven't weighed 97 kilos probably since I was doing CrossFit. I think when I was doing CrossFit, 2016, I went to the CrossFit Games and I think I was 96-ish kilos, maybe slightly below 96 kilos. And then been basically anywhere between 98 to 102 kilos my entire bobsled career. Now I'm somewhere around 97, which for me is very light. I'm expecting this to kind of adapt and take care of itself. If I have to, I'll start tracking my food and making sure I'm getting in everything that I need to get in, just so I don't continuously drop weight as I'm trying to build strength, because trying to do a strength cycle and being in a deficit is not the best way to build strength. If anything, that's a great way to just bury yourself in terms of energy. So that's kind of the update for right now. I'm just going through some mobility work, trying to open everything up. I'm gonna start going through my warm-ups and then probably hit some like easy plyos prior to doing the accelerations. We'll knock out all the accelerations, might end the session with some plyos. Warm-up is done. And now we got the blocks set up in a position that will be like a good general starting point for me. I am going off of what I used to remember how I set my blocks up back in the day when I used to run track. These blocks are a little bit shorter in length from here to here. If you have longer blocks, as you can see, these are much longer. Generally, you want the front of that block to be about a foot away from the line, and then you would place that down into the ground, set your foot pegs from there. The problem is that specific set of blocks only has the left side, it doesn't have the right, so I've got to use these ones. So since they're a lot shorter, I can't set it up a foot away from the line and be able to have my foot pegs where I want them. From what I remember, and this may be wrong, so if you're a track guy and you're watching this, feel free to drop a comment, let me know how you like to set your blocks up. I usually put my first leg 2 feet behind the line. So that's gonna be where my first foot is gonna go. And then my back leg is going to be roughly 1 foot behind that front one. That should put you in a good general starting position. What I think I'm gonna end up having to do is play around with these foot pegs. Setting up blocks is really going to be just whatever is going to be most comfortable for you. We're just gonna start knocking out reps, and hopefully I don't fall on my face or feel too awkward as I do this. So I'm gonna take the microphone out and just set it on the ground here. Always, 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 when you get into your blocks, you want to back into them. So put your first foot in first, back leg out, and then set yourself up. So I can already feel like I am in a very crouched position. This does not feel comfortable at all already. We'll knock out a rep and we'll see how it goes. Not as bad as I thought it was going to be. Not great, not terrible. I'm gonna do a few more reps with the block set up that exact way, and then I think I'll make some adjustments if I need to and see if it doesn't make it feel more comfortable. So the first one I did a 20. 20s felt good. My legs actually, after doing a warm-up, my legs actually feel much better, and I feel like I'm able to kind of get some pop, So as long as I can keep the intensity on these high, I'm not doing all out sprints. I'm doing like 95% efforts. So I'm pushing off as hard as I can, trying to drive 3 to 5 steps, and then I'm just finishing that 20 meters off at some high efforts. Rest in between could be anywhere like 2 minutes-ish. Rep number 1 felt decent, but let's see what the rep number 2 does. I should also probably mention real quick is setting up the blocks. While there is kind of like a general standard on where you want to be, you got to make it feel comfortable. Part of making it feel comfortable is having your blocks at an angle at which you feel like you can push off of. Every single set of sprint blocks has some ability to kind of adjust the angle that you're going to be at. Ideally, you want this angle to put you in a neutral ankle position where you can get full foot pressure on that push off. So neutral ankle position, meaning when I have my foot in the block, I'm not over flexed and I'm not overextended already. So somewhere kind of neutral to where I can spring and push off that block as hard as I can. But I also want to have a little bit of room so I can get full foot pressure into that push. Playing with these angles will be something that I'll need to do. Right now, it feels good. I've got this at 50 degrees on the back one and 50 degrees on the front. Feels like I can push off it fairly well, so I'm gonna keep it there. That second rep felt better than the first. Got 2 done, do at least 6 more, hopefully get up to like 10 to 12, try to get some volume in on these sprints, but so far, so good. Everything feels great. Last little tip when setting up the blocks and going from a block start. That hand to shoulder position is going to be very important. There's multiple ways that you can set this up. Like I said, the principles of it should be the same for everybody, but exactly where you're at and everything is going to be based off of comfort. The one thing that you do want is when you're set up in the blocks and you're in your bottom position, you want that shoulder to be over the hand already. So at least directly on top, maybe even a little bit out in front. That's going to be slightly dependent on where your foot is going to be on the ground. And then as you rise, you don't want to rise and bring yourself back, and you don't want to rise and bring yourself more forward. Try to figure out that position that you're going to be at, and then the hips just rise from there, maintaining that position. The second thing is finding a comfortable position is also going to be dictated on where you're actually placing your hands at. So you might be closer together. You might want to be wider apart. The things that are going to dictate that could be the length of your arms. Somebody who's got a lot longer arms might want to be out wider so they can get down a little bit lower. Or you could possibly want your hands a little bit closer to keep your chest up a little bit more. It's all going to be dependent on what's comfortable, but also like what allows you to project out in the best possible manner. I'm also going to be playing around with where I want my hands at in these starts to try to figure out where I'm going to be. So I haven't adjusted anything on the blocks yet. As I continue to do these reps, they're actually starting to feel better and better and better. So just trying to work on 2 foot push off the blocks, go hard. The one thing I am noticing is I feel like my first few steps are a little bit more choppy. I think that's because the projection angle I'm getting at is a little bit lower than my normal 3-point stance. So it's making me try to like shorten up those first few steps. So I've got to just be a little bit more patient and try to maintain that angle, try to push a little bit harder through each step to try to gain that little bit of distance on those first drive steps. But like I said, we haven't done this in a very long time. So we're just kind of playing with it and seeing how it goes. That last rep right there, which I think was my 4th rep, but that last rep there was the best feeling one so far. So since they're continuously feeling better and better and better, we're gonna leave the blocks where they're at today and we're not gonna mess with them at all. Get comfortable there. If we need to make minor adjustments later on, as we get more and more reps on the blocks, then we'll start making some changes. But as of right now, the more we do, the better we feel. I'm at my minimum number of reps I wanted to do today. That would put me at 8. I feel really good. Comparison to what I thought I was gonna be like today. I think I'm gonna be closer to like 10 to 12 reps. I definitely got still a solid handful of good reps to do. I'm just kind of using my rest now as kind of rest as needed in order to make the next rep that 95% effort. But this is the most fun I've had in an acceleration day in a long time. One, I'm learning something new. So it's a little bit more challenging than my normal like 3-point stance acceleration day. The other thing too is those blocks make me feel like I am shooting out, and like that first 10 meters is just flying by. I didn't bring my timing eyes today because I didn't think I would get quality times, but I feel good. My legs, as I continue to move, my legs are feeling better and better and better. So I think what I'm gonna do, we're gonna knock out probably 5 more reps on the accels. I'm gonna do a little bit of plyos and some med ball tosses. I'm gonna go home, have lunch, take a shower, and then probably hit the gym again, and then we'll do our weightlifting session. So as of right now, I'm feeling like we're gonna double it up today. All right, so I'm gonna try to fly through this next part and not eat up too much time. Because I'm doing the track session and a weightlifting session today, I feel like this video is probably gonna end up being a very long video. So plyo stuff I'm gonna do today, we're gonna do hurdle hops. We're gonna do a pause in each of the landing. The reason for the pause is just try to minimize the amount of reactive jumps that we're doing today. We did a lot of more reactive type pogos and plyos earlier in this week. I did do a little bit during my warm-up to kind of get ready for the sprints. And then after acceleration, this pause hurdle is something I like to do. I'm probably gonna end up doing 5 sets of 5 on this. So you'll jump over the hurdle, land, just hold it there, 1 to 2 seconds, just minimize that reactive force, kind of hold that position on the landing. And then you wanna have enough spacing between the hurdles that after you land, you still have room to swing your arms and jump up through. Last little tip on the hurdle hops here. Once you're in that landing position, ideally what I would like to see is that you just use those arms and swing yourself back forward in order to jump. You don't want to bring yourself all the way back down and do a counter movement jump on every single one of these. So we're looking at, you kind of like walk in to get a little bit of forward momentum going, jump up and over, land, and then try to explode over each rep as you go. So we're in the weight room. I started off with a snatch complex, similar to what I did earlier this week with a clean complex. Didn't want to go real heavy on it, so stayed like 85 kilos, I think, is what was on the bar. Did the same thing, snatch pull, a couple snatches, overhead squat just to work on that overhead position in the snatch. 5 sets on that total, and then we're gonna be moving on now. So next up, I have front squats. And I got home after the track session. I had some food. I was kind of debating on whether or not I wanted to do this weight room session today or tomorrow. I know I already said in the video that I was gonna do it today, but I was thinking, I was like, you know, I could do it tomorrow, give myself a little bit of a break after doing the accelerations. And then I saw the front squats. And I remember what I was thinking about when I was programming the front squats is I want 1 upper body AMRAP set per week. And we did that already. We did the bench press. And then I programmed a lower body AMRAP set, which is going to be the front squats. This is why I want to do it today, is because I want to give my legs a little extra breather before Monday comes around and I got to do my tempo work again. So my thought is, I'm gonna do the front squats today. That way I get a good Saturday, Sunday, part of Monday off before I go and do my tempo work. But the setup for the front squats is gonna be similar to the bench press that I did earlier this week. The difference is just the rep scheme. So on the bench, I did my top set at a set of 8. Then I did some working sets at sets of 10. And then I followed that up with an AMRAP set. Today, on the front squat, I'm not doing 10s, that's for sure. My top set is gonna be a set of 6. Then I'm gonna take some weight off. After I hit that top set, I'm going to do some sets of 8 on the front squat, and then I'm gonna finish off with an AMRAP set. And that AMRAP set is going to hurt, because even just after doing those overhead squats and the snatches, my legs are already feeling it again. So this is going to be an experience, but this is where you make your gains. So my top set will be at a 7 RPE. Working set, I'll drop 20% off of that, hit my set of 8 for 2, and then I'm gonna hit 1 set of an AMRAP. It's gonna be like an AMRAP-ish. I'm not gonna go to absolute failure on this, but we're gonna push it and try to grind out some reps on that last set. So I'm gonna get after it, start warming up, get up to that 7 RPE, and then I'll drop it back down and we'll do our working sets after. You know, I think my top set's gonna be like a 145. Oh man, this is gonna be rough. Oh yeah, this is gonna be it. I can tell after that first rep, that was gonna be my top set. We're gonna drop 20%, do some 8s, and then fucking send it on an AMRAP and just destroy ourselves for the next 3 days. Why did I choose to do this? So we're gonna do an AMRAP set. I'm already feeling it, I know. 115 for the working sets is not the craziest amount of weight. It's almost 50% of what my all-time best is. But like I said, legs are fried. And doing an AMRAP on a front squat, I've been asking myself, why did I decide this was gonna be a good idea for this? Because I'm gonna be doing AMRAPs every single front squat session for the next 3 weeks. And they're only gonna get heavier, and they're only gonna get harder. I don't know why I decided this was a good idea for today's session. Enough bitching. Let's just see how many we get. I got one more. All right, probably had 2 more reps in me, but that's enough. All right, so today's session is going to follow along a lot the same way that my first session in the weight room this week went. On Tuesday, we did cleans, back squats, bench press, did some accessory work. Today is gonna follow that same format, so snatches instead of cleans, front squats instead of back squats. Instead of the bench press, I'm gonna do an overhead press. I was going to do standing overhead press, but my quads feel like they are balloons right now. So I'm gonna give my legs a little bit of a break and go into a seated position. Sets and reps on this, we're gonna be doing sets of 8. I don't know what percentage it would be. I'm just going based off of how I kind of feel with a lot of this stuff for the first few weeks, because I don't really have specific percentages, because I don't also have 1 rep maxes for a lot of these movements. Oh, honestly, I'm probably just going to keep it there for the overhead presses right now. 4 sets of 8 on that is going to get rough. Here's one thing that's really good about the YouTube channel is you guys get to see the grind and the stuff that's not really like sexy. Doing, what is this, 45 kilo overhead presses is not the sexiest thing in the world. The progression that we're at from week 1 on this program to like week 12, seeing how that goes through and seeing that it's like not every single one of my sessions is just heavy and hard and I'm hitting impressive numbers all the time. This week is a very good example on showing what that work is like prior to hitting those sexy 1 rep maxes or heavy lifts that you see on Instagram, which is part of the reason why I wanted to do this YouTube channel. There's nothing special that I'm doing compared to other people. But one thing I do want you guys to note is note how things are feeling for me this week and where the weights are, and then watch what happens in 2 weeks, in 4 weeks, and then 8 weeks, and 12 weeks down the road. Because people will see the 12 weeks down the road and go, God damn, that shit's impressive. But you rewind it back, you look at the work that gets done prior to getting to that, and really it should be kind of an eye-opening thing to see, because what it really shows is like anybody could really get to the point where you're hitting all-time bests as long as you progress in a very meaningful manner and you make smart decisions as you go, and nothing needs to be fancy. Like my format is you're gonna do some sort of sprint, you're gonna do some sort of jump, your main compound lifts, squats, presses, and you just kind of get that done day in and day out, week after week, and you'll continue to see progress. I know a lot of people have bought my programs before and we're kind of taken back on how simplified some of my programs are. I feel like people expect there's some sort of secret that I'm holding on to that I'm not telling people. It's not the case. I do all the basic shit, just really, really good. All right, I got my 2 main lifts done for today. I've got 2 accessory movements I want to do. One for the hamstrings, one for the back. So we're going to do 1 lower, 1 upper. It's a hamstring one. I'm doing kind of a deficit RDL. From my back, I'm going to be doing some dumbbell rows. I'm going to keep the working sets similar to the working sets on that front squat. So I'm going to be doing sets at 8 on the deficit RDL. The dumbbell rows, we're going to go a little bit higher volume on that, somewhere around 10 to 12 on those, just to kind of mimic the accessory work that we did earlier this week. So I was doing like 3 RIR on the pull-ups, which I was in that 8 to 12 rep range for most of those sets. So I'm gonna keep the dumbbell rows similar to that. With the deficit RDL, as you're doing these, the deficit doesn't need to be a huge deficit, just enough to where you can kind of get just a little bit more range of motion than standing onto the ground. The big thing with the deficit RDL is you still only want to go as low as your hamstrings allow. So that ability to stretch the hamstring for some might be a shorter range of motion than others, but what you don't want to do is when you get down to the bottom of your hamstring position that you start extending with the back. As you can see, I'm not really getting more movement with my hips here. You don't want to just extend with your back and then pull yourself back up. Think about, you just want a little bit of a bend in the knee, push the hips back as far as you can, and then pull them back straight up. Sets of 8 on that, not a lot of weight. If you guys haven't noticed by now, the theme of this week, and probably for the next 3 weeks, is gonna be just getting through the work. Like, be more conservative throughout these first 3 weeks than really trying to push it. You got, like, in my mind right now, I've got the next 12 weeks kind of mapped out. I don't need to try to make significant progress in that first 4-week span. I really just want to lay the foundation for the next block and the block after that. It doesn't need to be the heaviest weights. It doesn't need to be the hardest. We're just trying to get some volume, build up like a base level of lifting fitness, build that capacity. And then once we've built that capacity over the next 3 weeks, then we'll start getting into some heavier loads, some more strength-based kind of sets and reps, not 8s and 10s. Will probably be somewhere around like 5s and 6s. And that's when you'll start to see that progress. So for those of you who have received the phase 1 program, you'll notice that first week looks very, very similar to what I'm doing right now. If you guys are gonna be starting that program, keep that in mind, that being on the conservative side of things may feel heavier at lighter weights than normal. That's fine. The goal for this first 4 weeks on this program is to kind of just build that capacity up. Like I've already said kind of many times already, be conservative, build up slowly. You're gonna be sore. You're gonna have days where everything feels heavy and the numbers are gonna be way lower than what you would expect them to be at. It's all part of the plan. In 4 weeks, 6 weeks, 8 weeks, you'll start to see some very good improvement on that. So you gotta just grind through that first few weeks. I'm gonna do a couple more sets on these, and then we're gonna move over to some dumbbell rows. I don't have a lot of memory left on this card, so I'm gonna end the video here. Tomorrow, I'm probably gonna be doing a very easy light session. I don't know if I'm gonna film it or not, because I don't think it's gonna be much more than probably just some easy accessory work, maybe some core work, stuff like that. Maybe I'll film tomorrow. I'm not sure if I will or not. If you've made it all the way through the video and you watched everything up until this point, I really appreciate you guys. If you haven't already, make sure to like, make sure to subscribe. I'll either see you tomorrow or I'll see you guys on Monday.